Welcome to the Platinum Rule. My name is Scott Zimmerman. I'll be your host today. I just want to let the attendees know that this meeting is being recorded and will be used for both marketing and promotional purposes. So if you have anything to hide, now would be the time to bail. And if not, let's get started and have a lot of fun. The Platinum Rule is a subject near and dear to my heart, and it really is all about putting other people's needs ahead of our own and treating and just being kind to another person. And it's really a more modern, sensitive version of the golden rule, which I think we all know. And does anybody know what the golden rule is?
Yes, it's treat other people like you'd like to be treated.
Okay. And when it comes to ethics and morals and integrity, there's no better rule to live by. And I believe it in 110%. However, when it comes to interpersonal communications, not everybody likes to be treated the way I like to be treated. They like to be treated their own way. So the Platinum Rule is just a little more sensitive version that says, treat others the way they want to be treated. And today I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Once you learn how to make small adaptations in how you communicate with another person, the outcome is twofold. It lowers any interpersonal tension that might exist between the two of you, and it increases levels of trust. And the way to accomplish this is you kind of have to know your own tendencies, how you most naturally communicate, how you come across, how you digest and even share information. And then we're going to teach you today how to recognize the mode that someone's in. What style or mode of operation are they in? And then all you have to do is just make small adaptations, and usually the pace and the priority of how you're sharing ideas or going through a sales process, or maybe helping the other person make a decision. And when you learn how to make small adaptations, it makes it really comfortable for other people to stay in communications with you. So all you have to do is watch the other person while they're speaking, and they will tell you based on the speed and the priority of where they're focusing the conversation on internally what's motivating them at any given point in time. Now, what we're going to teach with the Platinum Rule is we're going to tie in two languages that are really the same thing with just different terminology. The Platinum Rule terminology that Dr. Alessandra and I wrote about in the books, and a more widely accepted one called DISC, D-I-S-C. They're really the same thing, just taught with a different language. So at any given point in time, another person, as I'm speaking with them, will exhibit one of four behaviors. They might be in their driving or directing mode. And I'll get into some details, but that means they're being very confident, assertive, fast-paced, impatient, and they just want to get something done or make a decision. Sometimes somebody could be in their interacting or socializing mode where they're being fun and playful, warm and friendly, telling good stories, kind of the life of the party. And then someone could be in their relating mode, and they're being very quiet and cooperative and warm and soft and steady and loyal. Lastly, I can picture somebody when they start thinking. They're analyzing. They go really quiet. I can tell they're trying to make a decision, and they're really working to either get something right or to not be wrong. Now, how do you do this? How do you look at someone and determine what mode they're operating in? The main reason I wanted to partner up with Dr. Alessandra is he took a very complex model and he made it so simple, anybody can do this. You're only looking for two things in someone's behavior while they're speaking. And all the cues come out through the three V's, verbal, vocal, and visual. And basically, you're going to watch for their level of pace, confidence, and assertiveness, or lack thereof, and their degree of warmth and openness, or lack thereof. So when I'm speaking with another person, I always picture that I have my glasses on, and I'm watching speed and temperature. That's it. It's that easy to do. So let's start off with open versus guarded behaviors. This is someone demonstrating their levels of warmth or lack thereof. So open people come across when they're in an open mode or warm, friendly. They're natural huggers and touchers. A lot of facial expression is sometimes people are being more guarded when I'm speaking with them. They don't say as much. When they do, they're very fact and data and business focused. Not a lot of facial expression, a little more standoffish, and just in general, a little more cool. So when someone's being either open or guarded, they're telling you at that point in time if they're really willing to share their innermost feeling or thoughts, or maybe they want to tend to keep them on the inside. So when someone is being really open with me, that tells me that their primary focus at that time is with relationships and feelings and stories. And when someone's being open, you can tell they're not really pressed for time. So they'll be open with your use of their time. So a meeting that should have been 15 minutes often runs to 20 or 25. These people are really easy to get to know because whatever they're thinking or feeling on the inside, it comes out. As Tony always says, their thoughts are like a gumball. It pops down the tongue and it rolls right out. Now, conversely, some people can be more guarded than open. Now, when someone's in a guarded mode, I can tell that they really want the meeting to end either on time or early. When they talk, they don't say as much, and they tend to come across as more standoffish because whatever they're thinking or feeling, it tends to stay on the inside, and they're more poker-faced or stoic. Harder to read, harder to get to know. They don't say as much, and when they're done talking, they're done talking. So they don't have a tendency to ramble. So just out of curiosity, just based on that simple thing, would you say most times in most situations with most people, you're more open or more guarded?
Hey, Scott, this is Tom.
Yeah.
I'm by nature a very open, relatable person. Wouldn't that give me an advantage in professional selling?
Yes and no. The yes is if you're very open and personable, people can probably tell that you're always telling the truth because whatever you're saying or thinking or feeling just tends to come out. And it's also easy for you people to warm up to you. That's the upside in selling. The downside is that if the other person you're talking to is more guarded and they feel like you're trying to warm them up like a typical salesman would chat somebody up, that could create a lot of inner tension. But because they're guarded, they won't show it, you won't know it, but they won't enjoy the meeting as if you had just stuck to the facts, gave them the information they wanted, and let them make a decision. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, it does. Thank you very much.
No problem. And we've got, assessments. We've got a book you can read. We've got online sales training. So if you ever want to get great at this, we can help you.
I appreciate it. I got one more quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. I take out of this that you're labeling people. Isn't it kind of dangerous to maybe be labeling people?
Well, that's the one thing that we always talk about, observable behavior. In fact, it's on the screen right now. This is about adapting to the behavior you're seeing in another person at any given point in time. People have the capability of shifting from one quadrant to the other in a blink of an eye, depending on what you're talking about, or if they're getting ready to make a decision. So it's not uncommon for me to be in a conversation with someone and they're being very direct. We're keeping the conversation at 40,000 feet, and all of a sudden this person slows way down and starts asking detailed questions about a project or about software or whatever it is we're talking about. So they go from a directing mode to a thinking mode, and I have to slow down with them and answer all the questions, make sure that they're comfortable with where we are, that I answer them thoroughly, and then as we maybe shift subjects, I'll see them speed right up again. So it's about adapting to the behavior you're seeing at any point in time. But no, you are correct, Tom. Great question. We never put anybody and label them and stick them in a quadrant and leave them in a quadrant. It's very dangerous, and it's also inaccurate.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
More than welcome. Good questions. Thank you. So now that we've covered the degree of warmth through openness and guardedness, now we're going to talk about speed or pace. Some people are more indirect at a point in time, then some people can become very direct at any given point in time. So direct people are more faster paced, impatient. They talk fast, they walk fast, they make quick decisions, they tend to eat fast. Everything about them just has a quicker pace. In general, most of the time with my wife, I'm more direct than she is because indirect people are more cooperative, quiet, introverted. They don't say as much. And when they speak slower, and they tend to be more monotone in a more quiet method when they talk. When a direct person's speaking, you know they're speaking. Finger pointing, a lot of gesturing, a lot of inflection, and a lot of force in the voice, which is how I generally speak. So let's look at the comparison and contrast of direct versus indirect. I had to cover the direct people first because they were impatient and wanted me to jump in and take care of them first. So they're confident, fast-paced. When they talk, they'll tell you things instead of asking you. So they'll make statements instead of asking questions. They don't mind making quick decisions. They have a tendency to jump off a cliff, build a plane on the way down. So when you're selling with a direct person, they'll make a quick decision. A lot of times, if you're asking the right questions, they'll interrupt you and ask to buy. Now, conversely, when somebody's being indirect, they're being very quiet and calm, and they're letting me control the conversation so I can tell they're processing. Now, they think just as quickly as a direct person, but they're not driven by the same things. They want to either get something right or to not be wrong, which is why they're being quiet, because they're processing. They're thinking through options. They got to get it exactly right. So when someone is being very quiet and cooperative, I slow way down. And I'll leave pauses and I'll ask questions like, is there anything else you'd like to know about this before we maybe shift gears or change subjects? So when someone is being indirect and quiet, I often offer to say, we're not making any buying decisions today. I'm going to give you plenty of time and space to think this through and make your own decision. And I'll check back with you in a week and answer all of your questions. Would that be okay? And when somebody is being indirect, you can see them physically relax. Like, oh, thank goodness, he's not going to push me for a decision. Absolutely not. And direct people will flat out ask to buy. So you don't lose anybody by offering to give them time and space to make a decision. In fact, if you offer, it builds trust. So did anybody in these brief descriptions see themselves as being more direct than indirect, or more indirect than direct with most people, most times?
Hey, Scott, it's Bob. I'm much more direct than indirect. I'm selling consulting services. Can you provide me some negatives and positives for being so direct in my sales process?
Sure. We'll lead with the good news and end with the good news. Direct people, especially in sales, are very goal-directed and hard-working people. And as a rule, they also don't mind making new relationships because they're so confident it would never occur to them not to cold call or not to go networking and go meet new people. So naturally built to sell, except for when you're selling to people that are less direct than us. If we don't slow down, take the elephant out of the room, say we're not making any decisions today, I'm just giving you information. If we fail to do that, we can cause a lot of inner-tension with them because they're trying to keep up with us, and then they think we're going to probably pound on them to make a buying decision. So if up front you can just let them know, we're not making any decisions today, I just want to provide you with candidates or learn more about your needs so I can go find the right people for your consulting services. I think everybody of all styles would appreciate you just saying that right up front. So just always notice if it feels like you're going faster than the other person, you might want to slow down, speak a little more calmly, a little softer, and maybe put some mile markers in your conversations to allow them to process. But again, the good news is, Bob, you were probably built to sell. So that is the good news.
Cool.
So when we put these two together, if somebody is being more direct and more guarded, they're telling you they're in their directing or high D mode. This is somebody who wants to get something done, make a decision, move the project forward. They want to take over the conversation or the meeting. So you can almost picture them being like a traffic cop. They tend to do a lot of table pounding, hand gesturing, and when they're speaking, you know they're speaking because they are in command. The good news is, when they're in this mode, it's the easiest time to sell to them because they want to make a decision. They want to win. They want a competitive advantage. They want to solve a problem. And they're letting you know this because they're so forceful and direct in how they're speaking. Now, if somebody is direct, fast-paced, confident, and assertive, like the directing person, but they're open, warm, and friendly, they're in a socializing mode. They're probably joking in the meeting, telling stories. These people have the natural gift of gab and the power of persuasion. You can just hear their excitement for everything in their voice. Natural storytellers, natural jokesters, natural pranksters. And when someone's in a socializing mood, they want to buy yesterday. They will make a decision as soon as it feels right. So a lot of time, if you're selling with a socializer or in a socializing mood and they make a decision before you know they have all the information, a lot of times we have to slow them down, give them assurances, and review everything that is that they actually thought that they just bought. So of the 4 styles, they tendency have the most buyer's remorse. Now, if somebody is open and warm and friendly, like your socializer, but they're indirect and they're quiet and cooperative and more calm, they're in the relating mode. This is all about kumbaya, team building, the family, the relatives. This person cares about everybody on the team. When they're in a buying process, they want to know how it impacts everyone else in the company or everyone in their division or their department. And of the 4 styles, these are the ones that go intellectually to see if this is a good decision, and then they want to support it completely emotionally. So when you're selling with someone who's in a relating mode, you have to provide a lot of personal assurances, let them know that you're going to be there for them after the buying decision is made and that you will never let them down. And trust me on this, never let them down. Lastly, if someone is indirect, more quiet and calm and cooperative, like the relating person, but they're guarded, harder to read, harder to get to know, less facial expression, they are in a thinking mode. And what they want to know is everything. When they're in this mode, they're in their intellectual mode. Trust me on this. And people who are generally in thinking modes most of their life are the smartest people in the room. They are driven by a need for accuracy. Whatever it is you're sharing with them, they're going to shop it. So up front, I just say, I'll give you all the information. I'll give you a couple of weeks. Why don't you compare and contrast what I'm suggesting to other offers or methods out there? And I offer it to them because I know they're going to do it anyway. So I might as well be the hero for suggesting they go do it. So when selling to someone who's in a thinking mode, you always stick to logic. You slow down. You give them all the information they need, including time and space, to make their decision. And then you allow them to make their decision and get back to you because they will. So let's just cover it 40,000 feet. When someone is in a joke-telling fun mood, they'd like for you to let them do the talking, let them share their stories, because generally speaking, socializers are generally speaking, usually about their favorite subject, themselves. When you're showing them software or a potential solution, ask them to tell you how they see that working. Because in that conversation, you're the second best salesperson. They will sell themselves better and faster than you ever could. Always pay them a sincere compliment because they will be charismatic and boy, can they talk. When you're showing them a benefit for your products or services, let them know how this will make them look better, how this will make them the hero of their division or their department, because they picture themselves walking on stage, getting the award at the end of the year. So I just get them to sell themselves by closing the conversation. So we've covered everything. What would you like to do next? They want to buy. They want to get started, so I let them. Now, when somebody's in their directing mode, Bob, you can relate to this one, I'll bet. They want for you to keep a fast pace and stay at 40,000 feet. Headlines, highlights, but when you touch upon a subject, they will slow down and ask you a detailed question, and they'll usually do it just to see if you really know what you're talking about. If someone's in a directing mode, if they ask you a question, you don't know the answer, your correct answer is, great question, I don't know, but I will go find out for you, and do it. They will hold you to every promise, even if it was just hinted about. So as you're talking with them, facts, data, no stories, no testimonials. These people are driven by certainty. Again, if they ask you a question, give them a short answer, and then just wait. If they have a follow-up question, they'll ask. If not, they want you to move along. When you're demonstrating features, benefits, solutions, outcomes, it's all about them winning, always. This is going to give you a competitive advantage. This is going to make it harder for your competitors to beat you, whatever that is. That's what they want. At the end of the conversation, I just ask, what would you like to do next? And usually they ask to buy if we had a thorough conversation and I've addressed all their needs well. When someone's in their thinking mode and they've slowed way down and they're analyzing and they go really quiet, and you can see them thinking. They want a slow, methodical conversation. Cover everything. Don't leave anything out. No stories and testimonials. Guarded people like facts. They ask you a question, give them a detailed answer, and then when you're done, ask, is there anything else you'd like to know about that topic, just to make sure. Help them explore everything, regardless of every area of what you're proposing as a solution. If there's any minor potential downside for any part of your proposed solution, be the first one to point it out to them, because they will find it on their own. And if they find it without your help, that is an error of omission, and they consider that almost to be a lie, and you've really lost trust with someone who's an analytical thinker. When you're done with the conversation, ask them, would you like for me to follow up with you in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? You tell me, and let them go make their decision on their own. Lastly, my lovely wife, who's mostly a relator, she likes for me to be in a conversation with her in a soft, casual way. She likes stories. When she's trying to learn about something, she'll want to know everything about it before she either gets started or she makes a buying decision, so you have to be thorough. If you have stories about how your product or your solution or your services have helped other people, tell them they like stories. They like to know how other people won because of how you helped them. Be very thorough with your answers. Again, when somebody's indirect, that means they're being cooperative and they're letting you control the conversation. When they're being quiet, they want everything, especially time and space to decide. If possible, ask them about what your solution, how it could benefit their family, their coworkers, their division, because they want to know that. Again, plenty of time and space to decide. So I've left some time here for some Q&A. But before I do, I hope I've earned the right to just let you know that we've got some webinars coming up that you might be interested in. How to apply what I just taught you throughout the phases of a collaborative sales process, how to maintain rapport throughout any buying, selling conversation. We're going to do one on how to help anybody determine a positive return on investment if they were to use sales enablement services as we provide. Any blind spots your style might have for how you're selling, whether you're selling transactionally or long cycle or you're selling invisible services, you will have blind spots on how to compensate for them. If you are a professional outside salesman, we will show you how you can cover that territory like nobody's business. And if you're spending time doing a lot of like data entry, if you're in sales or you're updating CRMs a lot, what it's actually costing you, where you could have had an assistant do that for you and still been out selling. And lastly, we're going to do one like why direct people like me and Bob are great hunters, but man, we stink at lead nurturing, so we aren't built to be farmers, and what we can do to solve those problems. Lastly, I will tell you that we've created an online sales training program on the Platinum Rule for Disc Sales Mastery. It's self-paced, it's a lot of fun, and it's given to you by Dr. Tony Alessandra, who not only was a college professor, but wildly successful both in selling himself and training salespeople. It's fun, it's fast-paced, you're going to enjoy it. You can do it from your phone or any internet-connected device. So if you'd ever wish to get a hold of me about training or workshops or our sales enablement services called Cyrano, if you would like for me to put together a free lunch and learn for your sales team, please get a hold of me and I will help you out. Regardless of what we talk about, I'll send you a free copy of the Platinum Rule for Sales Mastery after the conversation. And now I'll open it up if anybody has any questions, and then we're going to close it up for the day. Does anybody have any questions?
Awesome. I do. I actually have two questions. The first one is, I know professional service providers that could really benefit from this. I help them with greeting cards and custom gifts and things like that. How would this impact them?
In many ways, because their ability to sell themselves, if it's professional services, they're selling the invisible. So it's not possible for somebody to line up 3 accountants and pick them based on skills. They're going to hire somebody that they believe and trust will do the best job for them. So their ability to build rapport and liking and trust with another person is critical. And then their ability to know how to provide that service to someone based on their primary style will help them get a lot of referrals. For instance, if my accountants kept sending me, thick reports and all these details on how my business was doing, it would drive me nuts. I want a 1-page flash report. And I want it often so I can make mid-course corrections quickly. You can put the details behind it, but give me a cover page because I make quick decisions. So another thing would be, for example, let's say that you have a client you're providing, and that client sends a gift to their client who, let's say, is mostly an analytical thinker, and they don't get the big thank you. In fact, they may not even get it acknowledged, and they wouldn't even know why. Well, chances are if somebody has a lot of analytical thinker in them, and you send them a $40 box of golf balls on their birthday, they're going to be a little bit skeptical, like who really paid for those golf balls. Whereas if you just send a sleeve of golf balls to a socializer, you get 5 referrals because they're going to tell everybody how awesome you are. So I hope that gives you just a little insight. We're a little pressed for time, but certainly we can, discuss this more one-on-one if you have more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And my second question is, I see how this would benefit, people in sales. Does this had any other impact in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Changed my marriage virtually overnight. Once I realized how direct I was and how indirect Patty is, I learned within an hour of reading this book, and I stopped pushing her for any decisions. So if we were thinking about a new car, I would just lay breadcrumbs for a few weeks, just little hints about maybe it's time to get something with better gas mileage or something like that. And I just wouldn't say anything else. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, she would get the idea that maybe we should discuss shopping for a new car. Whereas before, I would have just grabbed her on a Saturday morning and said, hop in. And she'd go, where are we going? I go, we're going to go buy a new car. I was excited about it. Never occurred to me she wasn't. So it helped me a lot, especially with my friendships and understanding my stepdaughter and being able to adapt to her better. It's helped in all my personal relationships too.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was a good question. Thank you. Anybody else before we wrap up?
Hey, Scott, this is Tom again. One quick one. We've been focused on the Platinum Room with selling. I was wondering how it would adapt to the marketing. A lot of companies really have issues with aligning sales and marketing. How would the Platinum Room, and can it help you in your marketing efforts?
Great question. So let's just say I was going to send I had a meeting with you and Bob at the same time about the same solution, whether it's software or something you were thinking of buying from me, right? And let's say that you were clearly an analytical thinker. I spent most of the conversation in that mode, and Bob was clearly in a directing mode. Would it make sense that when I send a follow-up email to Bob, that's probably one headline, 3 bullet points, and for you, case studies, facts, data, and I probably would stretch those emails and follow-ups over a longer period of time, knowing how you intake information differently. See how that might work?
Absolutely, yes.
So can you imagine me going into a meeting with 2 different brochures, one that's full of details and one that's full of overviews, and 3 minutes into the meeting, when I realize that person's either very direct or very indirect, I just hand them a different brochure?
No, that sounds perfect. I mean, mostly everybody wants the brands to talk to them differently.
This is a great way to do it. And again, it's not manipulative. It's just giving people information in a way that's more comfortable for them to ingest. I did an experiment one time with Dr. Alessander and an author named Brian Tracy, and both of them were selling online personality type assessments. And after I wrote the first book with Tony, my light bulb went on. I said, Tony, you and Brian are giving away free assessments and asking for a $50 upgrade so they get the big 63-page reports. But they just told you their style and you're sending out the same offer with the same email, worded the same way. Let me write that for you 4 different ways. They said, wow, that makes sense. So I did, and we tested a 3-month period after I rewrote the offer 4 different ways, and we compared it to the same quarter the year before. And Brian Tracy's conversion from $0 to $50, this conversion rate increased 540%. So more than 5 times as many people got out their credit card and bought the assessment, and Tony's went up 1,640%. 16 times as many people bought the $50 upgrade simply because we worded it based on their style. So, and that also is a service we do for our clients, by the way, as well, is we'll help them match their marketing message to the predominant style of the buyers they're calling on. So with that, I've used up my full 30 minutes. Thank you all for your participation. Again, I'm Scott Zimmerman. If you ever wish to have a conversation about the Platinum Rule or sales enablement or marketing, I'm only a phone call away, and regardless of the outcome, you'll get a free book, and maybe we'll both have made a new friend. Thank you for joining, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.